So, you want to learn how to knit, but you don't know where to start. With so much information out there, it can get a little overwhelming, so I am starting a series here on my channel, Knitting 101. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you different kinds of knitting needles, their pros and cons, and where to start. So first off, what you need to know are the different kinds of knitting needles. I'm sure we all think of the stereotypical knitting needle. I'll put it up on screen. The straight edge, old school knitting needle, and those can be great for beginners. They're definitely great for knitting flat projects, but the only issue is you can't knit in the round. And two, they can get pretty bulky and they can get in the way of other craft storage. A lot of projects can be knit flat, such as cardigans and sweaters. This will require you to seam up or sew your projects together, and that can get a little time consuming. I know I have definitely abandoned a lot of projects when it comes to seaming up them. Knitting flat pieces just is really time consuming. So a way to combat that is with an interchangeable knitting needle set. I use the Clover Takumi interchangeable bamboo knitting needle set. This is what it looks like. You don't have to use this set. There are other interchangeable knitting needle sets out there, but this is the set that I use. As you can see, it comes with this little sachet, which is just the cable holder. So with your interchangeable knitting needle sets, right, you have these varying cables, which just help lengthen or shorten a project that you're working on. But this can be very beneficial to beginners or maybe someone who doesn't have a lot of storage. So you might be wondering what interchangeable means. So with these, my knitting needles are screwed onto this cable. And if I want to change the size of my knitting needles, all I do is just unscrew the needle from the cable, like so. And that's really beneficial for a lot of different reasons. Maybe I don't have the storage for a bunch of knitting needles, or maybe I'm working on a pattern that says to start with a 3.5mm knitting needle and then swap to a 5mm knitting needle. And I personally really enjoy interchangeable knitting needles. So what is a fixed knitting needle? Well, here I have two examples, right? This one's a little small, I use this for socks, but basically, as you can see, the needle is connected to the cable, okay? You can't take the knitting needle off of the cable without therefore breaking it. Same thing with this pair. This set of 2.75mm knitting needles is fixed on a 48-inch cable. And again, you could remove the knitting needles, but you'd be breaking them. So basically, if I'm starting my project here with the 2.75mm knitting needle on my 48-inch cable, and the pattern says to swap to a 4mm knitting needle, because I can't take the needle off of the cable, I'd have to swap to a 4mm knitting needle with a 48-inch cable. And that can get annoying when, again, it comes to storage, just like the straight knitting needle, or just having to buy so many pairs of these instead of just investing in an interchangeable knitting needle kit. So again, mine are wood, and they're very beneficial for beginners because on a microscopic level, the wooden knitting needles aren't very smooth, so therefore the yarn catches or is grippy, and that prevents beginners from dropping stitches. I personally learned on an aluminum knitting needle set, an interchangeable one off of Amazon, and it was good to get the basics of knitting. However, as a beginner, I definitely dropped a lot of stitches, and that can get really annoying, but also I didn't have the knowledge to therefore pick up my stitch or fix the project, so that resulted in a lot of frogging of my earlier projects. Now we know we have wooden knitting needles and we have aluminum. But we also have steel, which are definitely a more expensive option. I've never come across a very affordable set of steel interchangeable knitting needles. But we also have plastic, and these are really affordable. You can find them in a lot of different places. I've seen Joanne carry them with Susan Bates brand or Big Twist, which is their in-house brand. And also Dollar Tree carries plastic knitting needles. Again, it's just the straight edge knitting needle. But if you're looking for a more affordable option, I definitely recommend checking out those places. So after all of that information, it really just depends on your personal preference. Is knitting a hobby that you would like to invest in with an interchangeable knitting needle set, or do you just want to give it a one-try attempt? Fixed knitting needles are great for a one-time attempt if you'd like to give it a shot, but interchangeable knitting needles are definitely going to be more beneficial in the long run. As someone who has been knitting for 2 years, self-taught from YouTube videos, I definitely prefer wooden knitting needles on an interchangeable cord. This interchangeable knitting needle set, for instance, is no bigger than a book. It doesn't take up much space, And with its carrying case, I can take it on the go. So if I'm knitting on the go and all of a sudden I need to change what size knitting needle I'm using, it's already there for me. So with that, what do you really need to get started when it comes to knitting? I'm sure we've all heard of notions. This is my most recent notions bag. I have scissors, I have stitch markers, tapestry needles, measuring tape, but that's not necessary. To get started with knitting, all you need is a pair of needles and some yarn. There are a plethora of yarn options out there, whether that's more eco-friendly fibers such as cotton or animal products, or there are synthetic, which tend to be more affordable as well as widely available. Dollar Tree carries yarn, Walmart carries yarn, anywhere you can think of. Crochet and knit have definitely become more widely available to the public with Amazon shipping and Walmart and big box stores such as Joann or Hobby Lobby or Michaels. So I hope that you can find some yarn that you are interested in using. But with that, that is going to be our first installment of Knitting 101. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know down below in the comments if you've ever knitted before and what kind of videos would you like to see in our series Knitting 101. That's going to do it for me. I will leave a link down below of interchangeable knitting needle sets that will range in budget depending on what you're willing to spend on a knitting needle set. And I hope to see you guys in the next installment of Knitting 101 where I show you how to cast on. Bye!